Hello, welcome to the PHONEWORD Workshops event for Wednesday, September the 10th, 2014, and it's 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and today we're going to be talking about participation in the PHONEWORD Workshops and some of the project elements and how you can benefit by participating in the workshops by basically developing something cool with the virtual addresses that we're creating and collaborating with others that are interested in creating something new, something useful, and something that's using some of the cutting-edge software development tools, techniques, and languages that are available today. So thank you for joining, and I believe we're likely to have a few other people drop in, but until then I am going to, well, first of all, I'll tell you that we have the PHONEWORD workshops twice a month, on the second Wednesday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern, and then on the third Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we generally go about anywhere between 45 minutes and maybe an hour and a half or so. The intention is that we will start to get into some actual development and coding on these. In fact, I expect that to be happening next week, next Wednesday, September the 17th. So please continue to follow us. You can follow us on Twitter at phone_workshops, and you can also follow the developments on the website at www.phonewordworkshops.com. So thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into the screen share, and let's see. Let's take a look here. Actually, I think we want to go over here and pull this up. Indeed. Okay. There we go. Okay, so if you are on the distribution list for PHONEWORD Workshops, you have received this presentation for today in the form of a PDF, and this presentation is also available for viewing on PhoneWordWorkshops.com on the front page, and as we move forward, this will be available in the Past Workshops tab. But basically, what we are talking about is, let's see, okay. We're talking about having these workshops where we can collaborate on developing new connectivity using things like JavaScript, Node.js, and let's see, somebody just joined?
This is Brian with FreeSwitch.
Hey Brian, how are you?
Good.
Awesome. Thanks for joining.
You're welcome.
So I'm starting to go through the presentation, Brian, which you should have received in the email. If you want to just follow along, I'll announce the slides that I'm on. Do you have that available?
Yes, I do. Hold on.
And I sent. Okay, great. So I'm on slide 2, which is the little toolbox, and I sent Andy an invite to the Google Hangout, but I haven't heard from him yet.
I didn't get one to the Google Hangout. Where did you send that to?
I think I sent it to your FreeSwitch address. You want me to try again?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay.
That's probably what I was hearing a while ago.
A little ding.
Yeah.
Let me try it again. Okay. So I just sent you an invite.
There it is. I got it.
Okay, cool.
All right, I'll call it. I'll call it like that now.
Okay, great. Hey, Brian.
Hello.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. And can you see the presentation on your screen?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So let me introduce you because I'm delighted that you're joining the workshop today, Brian. Brian is with freeswitch.org, which is an open source telephony platform, a very powerful platform for creating powerful applications in the world of voice over IP, and you guys have added some really cool stuff with WebRTC, using a JSON-centric structure, which I'm really excited about. Verto is the name of that module, which is very, very cool. And so let me put Brian on for just a moment. And the other cool thing that you guys are doing at FreeSwitch, which I'm excited about, is you are involved with an independent enum registry, e164.org, which definitely fits into what we're working with the PHONEWORD Workshops, as well as the 800 Hollywood and PHONEWORD .org and .com. So very cool. Anything you'd like to add, Brian?
Not right now. I would kind of want to see what you're going to talk about and maybe segue into some of the things because this lines up with some of the things that Andy Myers from Signal.org and we're interested in solving. E164.org is one of those things that I've been involved with to help try to solve this problem. But I just kind of want to see if maybe the approaches we've been entertaining may be just too difficult for everyday folks to understand and deploy. We need something simpler, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. And the intention of these workshops is basically to create an opportunity for us to collaborate. And what we're talking about today is how we could participate, how we can work on something that's hands-on, actually get our hands into creating something that works, and actually creating something that might be turned into something of value in the marketplace. So the agenda for today is to talk about the intention of the September workshops, talk about participation, how you can benefit by participating, go through a deployment example, and talk about some proposed requirements for participating, and then talk about some of the project elements that we're intending to use, how we can build a prototype, and then wrap it up from there. So let me, you have any questions about that, Brian?
No, not yet.
Cool. Okay, so the intention is to start to build a community that can collaborate on a project where we're using fully qualified domain names to create something new in the world of connectivity, and we're intending to build at least one prototype, maybe a couple prototypes under a couple different flags with a corresponding enum registry that's associated with each prototype. And that'll have not only web functionality but also telephony functionality, so that people can, if they've got nothing but even a rotary dial phone, they can still set up a connection. But at the core of all this, the real intention is to experiment with innovation, both with the technology, the business models, the policy, and the governance that could usher in a workable set of functionality, community, and drivers like the business models to make this all viable. So here's one of the problems that we're attempting to address, which is all of us face what I'll call address chaos today. We've got a huge and growing basket of both traditional telephony addresses as well as IP-related addresses, and they're all kind of working independently. And we've got to manage them, we've got to keep track of them, we've got no way really at this point to effectively tie all these addresses together. And I believe Andy Myers of Signal.org is also experimenting with the same value case and problem set. So I'm really hoping that Andy can join us, if not today, maybe next week, because I'd love to hear what he has in mind for Signal.org. And Brian, I think you actually introduced me to Signal.org, and I appreciate that. So.
Yeah, I had found him about a week before ClueCon. We tried to get him to come to ClueCon, but he couldn't make it. The scheduling was just too tight. But his mindset and his approach, it's like-minded to what you're trying to do here and what we envision as well.
Cool. Well, I think there's definitely a growing community of people, or let's say innovators and thought leaders that are headed in this direction. So, what's the solution? Well, I would say it's address harmony, and basically a way for end users, all of us as end users, to start to more effectively manage all of our addresses, coordinate them, bring them to life, and have them work more effectively as a unit, and particularly as a set of offerings that we can present to people that are trying to interact with us based upon our various identities. And what do I mean by identity? I mean, I have an identity as from a business and professional standpoint. I have an identity from my family community, from my social community, and each identity, it would be great to be able to show and display different sets of addresses and services and endpoints for people to choose from. So that's one of the dimensions of what we're interested in addressing here, and seeing if we can create something new that works. And if you're listening to this and you have not experimented with e164.org, I highly recommend you do that, because that's really how I got a great introduction to what I'll call end-user opt-in enum, and a way to actually register your existing, let's say, cell phone number, and then start to attach various elements to your starting telephone number or telephone number-like address, and start to bring all this stuff together. Is there anything, Brian, you'd like to say about e164.org?
Not at this time. It's one of those things. I'm not highly involved in it. I help facilitate the handover of E164 to the Open Source Telephony Advancement Group, which was a nonprofit that Anthony, Mike, and I had started. And due to wanting to make sure that we didn't have any conflicts of interest between us and anything that happens there, we've pretty much stepped out of that nonprofit, and it's handled by a few community members right now. So
Okay.
all of that's handled by them. I know a little bit about what's going on and helped with that transition, but I don't have a lot of information to go on right this second.
Cool. Perfect. So going to the next slide, which is slide 8, just an image to bring up the intention of creating innovation and exploration. Slide 9. If you participate in these workshops at, just sort of a moderate level, the benefit for you, at least starting, and again, this is by invitation because we're requesting people have a certain amount of expertise in in certain areas. But basically, the idea is that you can have one virtual address of your choice, and then one virtual address based upon your current contact information. And there's nothing set in stone about this. This is just sort of a starting point, stake in the ground. But in addition to these virtual addresses being operable on the internet in a dynamic fashion, the idea is to create a gateway from the legacy public switch telephone network via a couple easy to remember toll-free telephone numbers so that pretty much anybody can connect to you using your virtual address. And I'll go into that a little bit more in depth as we go forward. So going to slide 10, again, the participation benefits. How do you choose a virtual address? Well, one that matches your email address or spells your company or personal name. So for instance, I have shopcars.com. That would entitle me to 101 shop cars, or put any prefix you want in front of it, 44, 61, whatever, all the prefixes. Then slide 11, that opens up connectivity, presence, basically on a global platform, so that a virtual address is usable anywhere in the world. And it also starts to tie in somewhat of a geographic identifier via that prefix that I think could be very interesting and open up some interesting use cases. Slide 12, if you want to say, okay, for my somewhat verifiable address choice, I want to use my name, then we take the first part of the email address, in this case J. Carpenter. So that's one example. Slide 13 just emphasizes that, hey, this is intended to be a playground that is global, that it's operable all over the world, can accommodate people from all over the world, and this conversation has been and will continue to be with people from anywhere in the world. Slide 14, the other part is that by opening up this PSTN connectivity, the idea is that this makes this application or this platform as ubiquitous, as broad-based as possible. So slide 15, again, sort of flattening out the world and making it all pretty much equal. Slide 16, this is an example of an address that might be part of your choice. So let's say Jay Carpenter is a developer and I've chosen shop cars, 101 shop cars, 44 101 shop cars, all of that. Well, I might want to pick I will have another pick of a virtual address that could be anything. And the advantage to getting in early is that you're able to pick an attractive address that really suits your needs for something you'd like to develop and play with. So in this case, 44101 England, and that, again, that would encompass all prefixes 1, 63, 44, whatever, 101 England. And what this shows, and if you go to e164.org and you happen to provision one of your numbers on that platform, you'll see that you can start to attach all sorts of other endpoints to your registration, which is a fully qualified domain name. And in this case, it's on the PHONEWORD.org platform, could be on the 800 Hollywood .com platform, whatever. But you can start to tie together websites, telephone numbers, email addresses, SMS text messaging, pretty much anything. There's about 150 standards that have been agreed upon at the Internet Engineering Task Force for what are called NAPTers, which is naming address pointing records. So this list could actually be infinite. You could bring together under a registration pretty much a very rich basket of endpoints. So I'll go to slide 17. Here's how the PSTN connectivity works. Basically, people can dial 1-800-PHONEWORD or 1-800-Hollywood and then be prompted to either say or dial in the particular virtual address, like 101 J. Carpenter, under either platform. So, and then the proposal is that whatever the hard costs are for the 800 number connectivity simply be marked up 20% to cover overhead and so forth, and that'll be the pricing model for the PSTN connectivity. Slide 18, project elements, basically creating something that's collaborative, that builds a prototype that works, and then do testing and feedback as a community. Slide 20, the project development tools, using GitHub, using these workshops, probably develop a blog, some other connectivity elements, maybe use something like FreeSwitch's very robust conferencing capability, IVR functionality. The intention is to have all of this be WebRTC centric and functional, and then the database, we're looking to build a rich database of phrases and with a corresponding dictionary, and make all this open source so that any effort that people put forth is part of a contribution to the community source code. And if people decide, well, I want to go do something else, great, go do it. And it's also designed so that the open source hopefully keeps us from having to, a bunch of people continually trying to reinvent the wheel. And we can more effectively leverage our respective resources and talents and capabilities. So slide 21, basically what's it going to take to play with this tool set? Well, the proposal is that initially we have 15 participants, and each participant gets 2 virtual addresses, as I talked about before. Ideally, these 15 participants would be composed of 5 front-end people with front-end specialty, in terms of development, 5 back end, and then 5 designer centric folks, um, so that we've got a good mix of talents and capabilities here. Again, the telephony is cost plus 20%. The web is elements are designed to deliver and connect um, rich media on a point-to-point basis. And then the other part is that as we move forward, we would like to, in fairly short order, develop uh, the ability for developers to take these projects and basically put them on the market. So that if you've built, let's say, 44101 England, and you put some services behind it, you could offer that project for sale and, you know, basically monetize your efforts at that point. And the proposal is that the developer gets 85% of whatever it's sold for, and the PhoneWord Workshops would keep 15%. And then we could talk about, how the community might participate in that 15% portion. The other part is that as this progresses, the intention is to create a level of entities that are serving as registrars. So in the tiers of the design, the architecture, there's a registry and then there's a layer of registrars, and we've had some sessions in the PhoneWord workshops before talking about the registrar layer, and I'm not going to go into that at this point, but you can take a look at those from the past. But being one of the initial participants would give you an option to become one of the initial registrars, act as one of the initial registrars as well. So slide 23, the proposed tool set, let's say, is full stack JavaScript using MongoDB, Node.js, WebRTC, JavaScript, telephony services. We'd like people to be looking at some innovative architecture and policy sets for security, and we'll be talking about that in other upcoming workshops. But I think we've got some very interesting ideas for creating a new realm of security. And then basically the request is that you attend at least 2 PhoneWord workshops per quarter, and since there's 2 per month, you'd have plenty of opportunities to do that, and then have some sort of something working within 6 months that works both on the PSTN as well as on the IP network. So slide 24, that's pretty much it. Don't have much. We'll, Brian, I'll ask you for some questions and feedback in a moment, but basically this is really an opportunity for people to come up with some ideas that are innovative, resourceful, and work with others to create some ideally really, really cool stuff. So it's an opportunity to jump out of the bowl you're in, jump into something new, and you can follow us at www.phonewordworkshops.com, and that's pretty much it. So what do you think?
The goal is something that we have in common. The approach is probably a little bit different, but I'll definitely have Anthony and Mike here next week
Okay.
along with me. I'll be sure to send them the slides from this and discuss this with them, and maybe we could come back with some really good questions or good ideas to go in the right direction. And by then we may have Andy Myers here as well,
Okay,
be
cool.
able to discuss this as well. It was kind of short notice today, but um, I think I can get it pulled together for next week and get everybody here.
Cool. Well, yeah, I apologize for getting out the announcement late and the presentation. I put quite a bit of work into this presentation, and I had some other stuff in the stack. But we will have an opportunity to go over this again next week, and I will, if you think uh, Anthony, Mike, and maybe Andy and you will be on the session next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, Brian, I'll invite some folks from Europe as well, like
Okay.
Peter Segede, who I think, well, they're connected to a worldwide consortium of academic and research institutions, and they're working on a similar set of issues and value propositions. So
Right.
I think we could have a really rich conversation at that point.
Yeah, I think whatever we talk about, it has to be something that's simple to understand, easily accessible, low barrier of entry for anybody. Um,
Mhm.
because right now, if you want to publish in E164, there's a knowledge barrier there that a lot of people don't have, um, and that's a problem to solve.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and maybe we can go over the 800 Hollywood interface, which I presented on the VoIP user conference a couple weeks ago, which is designed to be as simple as possible so that anybody can use it. But I think we'll just kind of leave that for next week. And
okay.
so, do you have any other questions for me, Brian?
Not right now. I need to take this to Anthony and Mike and see if we can come back on the 17th and have some really good questions.
Cool.
Well,
Okay.
thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure, and thank you for stopping by. And I'll see if I can get some other folks on next Wednesday at 11 a.m. and let's get the ball rolling here.
All right. Well, thank you.
Very cool. All
All
right.
right. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye. Thanks for joining, and we look forward to you joining us next Wednesday, September the 17th, 2014 at 11 a.m. Eastern. And if you'd like to join the Hangout, please send me an email at jcarpenter@phonewordworkshops.com. Thanks for tuning in.